Welcome everybody to the Getting Started with Bookshare webinar. I hope you all can hear me okay. Just a few logistics. You are all muted and your video is off. You will receive a link to the recording and presentation within a few days. When you have questions, feel free at any time to enter them into the Q&A box. It's a little icon with the conversation bubble, the two next to each other. If you have any audio or visual problems, you can let us know in the chat, but please enter your questions in the Q&A box. We will try to get to some of them during the presentation, but then we'll have plenty of time after the presentation to answer all your questions. So my name is Laura Ronberg, and I work with Bookshare, and I'm assisted by my colleague, Angela Griffith. We both have worked with Bookshare for a while and are here today to tell you kind of what Bookshare is, how to use it, how to get started. We'll go through some slides, and then there'll be some demos on our website so you can see what that actually looks like. So today we will learn what Bookshare is and who is eligible, how to set up your account, how to assign books to students, and how students read Bookshare books. Before we begin, I'd like to do a quick poll to ask you how familiar you are with Bookshare. So what is your experience with Bookshare? Are you a complete novice? You've heard about it, but have never used it. You've used it a little bit. You use it frequently. Well, it looks like the majority of people here have either never used it or used it a little bit. So great. I hope today you'll learn what you need to know to get started about Bookshare. So the problem is that printed text does not work well for all learners. At least 5% of students experience a barrier to reading printed text. These students need the same materials as their classmates. They need it at the same time as their classmates are getting the printed books. But unfortunately, for about 5% of these students, they cannot see the words on the page. They cannot decode them. They can't hold the book and turn the page. So that's why they need their books in formats that work for them. Many districts have gone to using digital curriculums. We saw that a lot during the pandemic. However, digital does not equal accessible. So that's where Bookshare comes in. So what is Bookshare? Bookshare is an ebook library that provides books in formats that people who cannot read traditional print text can read in ways that work for them, whether that's listening to them in audio, having the synchronized audio and word highlighting with the text to speech. Maybe they need their materials in a Braille format, or maybe they use a screen reader and just simply need the book in a Word document that the screen reader can read to them. Different formats work for different people. And Bookshare provides books, close to 1 million titles, actually over 1 million titles now, in formats that work for people in the way that they need them. We have over 1 million titles, and we're constantly adding titles to our collection. It's textbooks, books for pleasure reading, fiction, nonfiction, career books, learning new skills, the New York Times bestsellers. As soon as the New York Times updates their bestseller list, we have those books in our collection. Best of all, Bookshare is free for students, qualified US students of any age. The books in our collection are for pre-K, K through 12, post-secondary, career, vocational related materials, and plus any books people would like to read for fun. We categorize books in different ways, but one thing we've worked on the last couple of years is to get books categorized by the Lexile levels, the popular leveled readers books, such as the Fontes and Pinnell, the Accelerated, the Scholastic Reading. Common Core text, we have these already categorized. So if you know your student is reading on a certain lexile level, you can go to that reading list that we've created, find the books that fit into that category. So it's a really vast collection. We offer 2 account types. Educators and schools sign up for what we call the organization account. They add their students, they assign their books, and help their students read. And students can only read books that have been assigned to them by their educators. Now, these accounts can be set up on a school level, on a district level. Oftentimes, AT departments or the VI departments create an account for district-wide use. Some districts, they prefer to do it that way. Other districts, individual educators can either create one just for their students, or they can have one that educators from the whole school can be a part of. We call educators sponsors, and students are called members in our system. We also offer individual accounts, and these are for students and non-students alike. For non-students, the cost of the account is $50 a year, but again, for students of any age, it's always free. And with the individual account, people can read any books that they wish. So a student could have both types of accounts. But today, mainly, we're going to focus on the organizational accounts. So to qualify for Bookshare, the student has to meet certain criteria, and Bookshare operates under copyright law. And the law states that an eligible person is blind or has a visual impairment or perceptual or reading disability or a physical disability that prevents them from holding the book, turning the pages, seeing the words on the page, decoding the words on the page. So those are the categories that a person would fit into to be eligible for Bookshare. And that is determined by what the law states is a competent authority. And that's simply someone that has professional expertise in either evaluating the student or has worked with the student. Perhaps the student has an IEP or they're on a 504 plan where it's been noted that an accommodation such as text-to-speech would help them comprehend the material. So the educator simply attests that the students that they are adding to the account fall into one of these areas that prevent them from reading printed works. So that's kind of the quick overview of what Bookshare is, who is eligible, what's in the collection. I'm going to show you now how easy it is to get started by adding a student, the ways to find books, and how students read. So I'm on the Bookshare website. I am logged in as an educator, and I would go to my Bookshare page, which is your dashboard. This is where you add members, where you can add other sponsors. Again, sponsors are educators. There can be as many sponsors on the account as you wish. This is where you look at to see how many books have been downloaded and just your account status. So what I'm going to do here is click on the members link. That is your member roster. Add a member. We ask for the first name, last name, a birth date, and grade level. That is the only personal information that we collect. Students are given, given their own username and password that you create. It can be a nickname, it can be their school email, their school ID number, anything that is easy for them to remember. And then here under qualifying information, you check whether they have a visual, a learning, or a physical disability. And this is what serves as a proof of disability. That's all you need to do. We don't require any signed documentation. You don't need to send us anything. You are attesting that you know the student falls into one of these categories, and that is simply it. If they have an IEP, you can note that here. IEPs are not required to join Bookshare, but many of our members do have an IEP, or if they have on a 504 plan. Save, That student is now on my roster, and now I can assign books to them. So sometimes you know which book you want to assign, other times you want to search or find something that might just interest the student. There are 3 ways to search for books. Every page has a search bar at the top where you can simply type in a title, an author, an ISBN. That brings up the list of books. So say I want my student to read A Tale of Two Cities, I'm going to hit the Assign button. It will bring up my members. I can select one, all of them. Hit Assign, and that is it. The student now has a book assigned to them, and immediately they can log into their account and see the book and read the book. We'll get into that in a bit. I will show that, but I do want to show you the other ways to search. We have the advanced search, which gives you a lot of different fields that you can enter in information. Maybe it's just a word in a title, something in the full text. If you know you want a book that contains images, and many of our books do, you can select the contain images. We have books in a variety of languages. As you can see, I believe we have almost 65,000 in Spanish. So a wide range of languages. Or if you want to search for a particular category, you know, your student is interested in comedy or horror, you can select one of those to narrow down the book search. Because again, with 1 million titles, it's a lot to search through. We also offer the browse page. And this is our list of reading lists that the Bookshare Collections Development Team has put together. As you can see, it's a New York Times bestseller for children and for adults. We always have a new books category by different age ranges. As I mentioned, for teachers, we have the Lexile list and the different level readers, Fontes and Pinnell. Their grading system, you click on the grade you're looking for. My computer is really slow today. Sorry, sometimes over Zoom, it is slow. Let's see, we try differently. Maybe we can come back to that, but you would see the list of books that fall under that collection. So now I have assigned the books to my student. I'm going to want my student to log in to read. So now I will show that. So this was the student I just created. They log in. They have their My Bookshare page, similar to the educator, where they see any recent books they've read, the assigned books, and assigned books are ones that are assigned using that assign button that I showed. So click on that, and there's the book. There's also another way to assign books called reading lists, which we're not going to really get into today, but I can show you where you can get more information. But it's a way of creating a reading list, and you can add multiple books. Say, the beginning of the year, there's 10 books the students will be reading that year. You can create 8th grade English reading lists and add all the books so they're all there ready to go in one place. So Bookshare books can be read in a variety of ways on a variety of devices. The simplest, fastest, easiest way is just to read it in the browser. The student would just select the Read Now button, and the book opens in the browser. It usually takes a second or two over Zoom as well. Hopefully not too long. The book opens in the browser, and you're able to change the font, change the visual settings. For some students, maybe they just need a larger font, and that helps them see the words. Other students need the word highlighting with the synchronized audio, with the text-to-speech. Sometimes it's just changing the contrast. Maybe a black background and white font is what helps. I don't know. Everything is super slow today. But the book just opens in the browser. There's no files to download. It's really simple, easy way, and that works on PCs, Macs, and Chromebooks. They also can download a file if they're using maybe a Daisy player, or if they just simply want the audio, they can download the book as an MP3. It downloads a file, then they listen to it the way they would listen to music or any other audio material. If they need a Braille file, the book can be downloaded in Braille. Or just simply a Word document. Sometimes maybe you want a student just to read one chapter of the book. You can have them download the book in the Word format, and you can, copy and paste.
Sorry, someone in the chat said they couldn't see the book.
Oh, it never opened. I'm not quite sure why.
Okay.
But yeah, for some reason, I don't know, I have my internet connection is strong, but sometimes over Zoom, it takes a really long time to load. And so I didn't want to just, maybe we'll be able to go back to that. Okay. But that's why, yeah, it never actually opened, unfortunately. Thank you. You can download the book as just as a Word document, and maybe just cut out a section. Again, it will not have the text to speech with that, but if you have a computer that has a screen reader, that would work with that. So the student has the option of either reading it in the browser or downloading the file and reading it on a device. They also can read the book on a mobile device. There are some great apps for Android devices, iOS devices, whether using a smartphone or a tablet. And that's actually what has become the preferred reading tool for most of our members. There are some really great free and low-cost apps, and I'll show you a little bit more about them. So all they have to do is log in. They open the app on their tablet or phone, and they log into their Bookshare account directly in the app, and then the book is there. So I will show you some of the different options of how students can read. In our Help Center, there's a Reading Tools button. And when you select that, that brings up our Reading Tool Wizard. So it starts by asking you, what kind of device do you want to use? So say, I want to read on an iPhone. And then select iOS. And it comes up with the tools that we recommend. And this is based on our member feedback. These tools integrate with Bookshare, so it's seamless. You just open the app on your device and log into Bookshare. So within the Reading Tools Wizard, we list the options, and you can select each one to learn a little bit more about it. There's a video tutorial that shows it being used, how to install it, how to find your books. So a lot of information to see how it works. So this would be the great place to go. The students read on whatever device they have access to at home or at school. During the pandemic, a lot of districts issued Chromebooks to their students. So we have that under the computer or laptop. You can select Chromebook, and we list our web reader, which I was trying to show earlier and the book wasn't loading. And then there's another product called Capti Voice that also works on Chromebooks and offers a lot of features. So our web reader is just a very basic reader. We actually are in the process of updating it. Hopefully in early 2022, that will be ready. But the other tools, such as the ones for the smartphones and tablets, have really great features. There's 100 different voices you can choose from. Lots of ways to change the text. Maybe a student just needs to see one sentence at a time where the words, and once it's read, the words disappear. That might help them with their tracking. You can set it up that way. There is just lots of different ways to customize both the audio and the visual settings. So we really recommend those tools. But again, our web reader is just something that is very, very easy and is right there. Let me see if maybe now I can have the book open. There we go. So the book just opened, open in my browser. Again, there's nothing to download. Table of contents, you can go to whichever chapter you need. The little gear icon is the settings. You can change the font size. Again, you can have, this is sort of a beigey background with black text. You can have black and white, the black background. And we hear from educators that sometimes just changing that makes a big difference in the student's ability to pay attention, to sit down and actually read the book. You can change the speech rate from slower or faster. And you can change the voices. Now, this does use the voices that are built into your computer. So like on Microsoft, there's 3 versions. On Macs, there's, I think, like 100 different voices to choose from. If you want your book read to you with a British accent, you can do that. But here, it's the 3 that Microsoft have put in. Save. And you hit the speech icon to play. So there you can see that it has just the basic word highlighting with the audio. And some of the other apps, you can change the color of the sentence that's highlighted, each word, there's lots of different color combinations. This is just kind of what you see is what you get, but it does provide that synchronized audio and word highlighting that is really beneficial for students with reading barriers. So that is kind of a glimpse of the teacher's experience and the student experience. And again, their students can only read the books that have been assigned to them, and they can log into their account on the website to see those books, or you can just tell them and then they find them in the app. So that is, again, that's how the student reads. I showed you the reading tools wizard in the Help Center. The Help Center is also a place where you can come if you're stuck on something, you want to know your account status, how to find books. You can type in something. I want to find out how to add an individual membership to my student's account. There's articles with video tutorials and step-by-step instructions for how to do that. So we try to provide as much support resources online as possible, but we do have a great customer support team that answers emails and the phone. And at the bottom of the Help Center page is the link to email a question or to call. And we are staffed 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. Pacific time. And it's a great team that can help you with any questions. Within the Help Center, we also have the Learning Center. And this is where we keep all our videos and how-to guides that can also help provide step-by-step instruction for all the different Bookshare processes that you need to get your account set up and running and students reading. We have some materials in Spanish for parents. For educators, the best place to start is the ABC of Bookshare for educators. It's kind of listed step by step, why would someone even want a Bookshare account, how you sign up for an account. And when you select that, it takes you to a page where there's a video walking you through the steps. There's also guides that you can download that have screenshots and step-by-step. So a lot of resources to help you get on your way of setting up the account. If you a couple weeks, you create your account and you've forgotten how to assign books, you can come here and assign and read is that assign button I showed you. There's also information about the reading lists that are the collection of books. So everything is here, whether you prefer to learn in a video format or read the guide, that's all that information is right there, all in one place. We also list our upcoming webinars. And I mentioned briefly some of the different reading tools. We will be doing webinars with our reading tool partners in the coming later in September. We'll have one with Voice Dream Reader Dolphin Easy Reader, and it's not listed on here, but CAPTI. It's the representatives from those companies actually demonstrate how you read the book in their product and all the different features they have. So it's a great way to really learn how to use the different reading tools from the people that actually create them. So again, the Learning Center is just a place where you can get more information. Back to our PowerPoint. So again, you will have these links in the presentation that you'll receive in a few days. There's links to the ABCs of Bookshare for Educators, the Help Center, the webinars, and our customer support number. So at this time, we can go. I see there's some questions that have come in. And take a look and answer them. Someone's asked, if you have an organizational account, can a student add the book on their own, or does it have to be pushed by the sponsor? Yes, the book has to be assigned by the sponsor. The students cannot find their own books and read their own books. Now, if you upgrade their account to include the individual membership, which is also free and really simple to do, it does require the parent to sign off on it if the student is under 18. But then that way the students can search for and read any book of their choice. But on the organizational account, the sponsor does have to find and assign the book. Okay. Someone's asked if private schools can use Bookshare. Yes, we have many private schools who are have Bookshare accounts. Okay, Alicia asked, can we leave the plans blank? I'm not quite sure. Oh, I think you mean the 504 IEP. Yes, if the student does not have an IEP or a 504, you just leave that blank. That's really more for our reporting purposes, and also for students that do have IEPs, they have access to a small subset of textbooks that are in the National Instructional Materials Access Center that students without IEPs don't have access to. The Instruction Materials Access Center has a copy of every textbook that is produced by law. The textbook publishers have to give it to them. They don't have to give it to us. Many have. We have a large textbook collection, but there are some that we do not have yet in our collection. Oh, great question. Can teachers review the book before they assign them? Because we operate under the copyright law, that only the person with the reading barrier, the disability, can actually see the whole book. So teachers cannot look at the full text of the book before they assign them. One workaround, though, is you can sign in as a student and preview it that way. Someone asked, how can a student pause start in a textbook? I think maybe referring to the web reader. The button that you hit to play the book, you also hit it to stop. And in every reading tool, it works a little differently, but they all have some sort of a play button similar to what you use to play music on an iPod or on your tablet. So they just play or pause. So yes, the students cannot choose their own books if they are just on the school account. They can only read what the teacher has assigned to them. Unless you give them the individual membership, then they can log in and find any book that they wish to read. If they are under 18, they don't have access to what is tagged as adult content. So they can access really everything, but hopefully they wouldn't be looking for that. Someone asked if you can download textbooks as a Word document. Yes, every title or 1 million titles is available in all those different formats. So whether it's DAISY text, the audio, a Word document, a Braille file, an EPUB, which is another type of electronic publication that different assistive technology devices might read. There's different programs to read those books. So every book can be downloaded in all those different formats, simply read on the computer or accessed on the mobile device. Is there another question? Is there a way to change an individual account to an organizational account? You can't change it, but you can add it. And actually, I will go and show you a little bit more about the individual memberships, because it's something that we really feel is very important to really encourage students to read books that maybe they might want to read books for fun. They might be more likely to read a book for fun than for school. So in addition to what they need to read for school, obviously, if they have access to books that they're interested, maybe it's a hobby, they want to read the books their friends are reading, by giving them that individual membership, they can access those books. So on the membership roster, you can select the student, and then under this more actions, you can say add individual membership. You have the option then to either send an email to the parent, or you can print out a form that has just a letter to the parent telling them about Bookshare and how to get the student their individual membership. So the parent does have to sign off on that. If they get the email, when you send them the email, there's a link in the email. All they do is click on the link. It will already have the student's name populated on the form. They just are simply giving their permission. And then they add in a username, an email address, and password. So then that it won't be the same username and password the student has been using that the teacher assigned, but they can delegate that the teacher has access to help manage the account. So that way, if the student has forgotten their password, the teacher can reset it. So that is how you would add the individual membership. Now, if you have a student in your class who already has an individual membership, whether the parents set it up or maybe at another school, they had one, you can, you put in their email address. You say, I have received permission to link these accounts. And then that will, you add them to your school account, and then that will link the account. So the best of both worlds is really to have the student on the school account and their own individual membership. And the individual membership they can have with them as they go through their whole K-12 experience when they graduate. If they go on to post-secondary, if they go into college or a vocational program, they'll still have their membership. And as long as they're a student, it is still free. So when they graduate, they're going to need books for their next program, no matter what kind of program they go into. If they don't go into a program where they're a student, but they wish to keep their membership, then they would convert to the paying membership, which is $50 a year. But having that individual membership ensures that their account stays with them. Say they're at your school and then the family moves and they're going to a different school, even if it's in the same district, they will need to then get added to, if they want their teachers to assign books to them, added to the school account. So that is another easy way to do that, because we currently don't have the option of transferring them to another account. So individual memberships are a great option for students. We find that students who have them read a lot more books. And again, the more they read, the more proficient they become. And hopefully they really actually learn to enjoy reading, which, as we know, is a skill that they will need for the rest of their life. Some of the questions. Someone asked if a student who is an English language learner, would they qualify? The fact that they're an English language learner alone does not qualify unless they also have a documented visual, learning or reading or physical disability. Because if it's just that they don't have a good command of the language, that's not really, in the eyes of the law, that's not a reading barrier. It's just that they haven't mastered the language yet. So that on itself would not qualify. But if they do have another one of those other conditions, they could be added to the account. Someone asked if would libraries be able to have this available for students who need it, or do qualified professionals need to approve students to use the site? A librarian could certainly set up an account, but only students who meet that eligibility criteria of the visual or reading or learning or physical disability could be added to the account. In some cases, a librarian could serve as the competent authority, because maybe they have access to the students' an evaluation that's been done in the school, whether that has been an IEP or some other type of evaluation, they might have knowledge that that exists, then they could add the student. But if not, the librarian could work in concert with the educators to identify those students. So then when the class comes to the library, the student can find a book, they can be assigned a book that the other students are reading. So having an account that the library, or having the librarian listed as a sponsor on the account is a great idea. Someone asked if you need to download Bookshare Reader onto Chromebooks. No, there's nothing you need to download. Just when they hit that Read Now button, it's just like opening up a link to another website. They just click on the Read Now button. There's no program to download. The only things programs you need to download is if you want to use one of the apps on the smartphones or the tablets, or some of the other web-based like Capti Voice, which is another reading tool, then that's something you download, but nothing else needs to be downloaded. Would it be possible to show how to add a user with an organizational and an individual account? Well, that is, you would do this on that page. So here I have selected the student, you would just say send an email or download the form. And, you would put in a fake address, the parent's email, hit submit, and goes off to the parent, and then the parent clicks on the link and it goes from there. And when you look at your member roster under membership, you can tell exactly which type of account the student has. Organization is just the school account. If they have been given their added the individual membership, it will say org plus individual. So like, for example, this student has both accounts. So they would log in with their email and could search from the full collection. Oh, someone says you weren't able to hear the sound for the book. I can try to go back and do that again. Just get through some of these questions. Someone else asked about the sponsor previewing the book, and again, only a member can, so you would have to log in as a student. Well, someone's asking about cost. There is no cost for the organizational membership. Bookshare is free for students, for schools. The only time there is a cost is if someone is not a student, and that's $50 a year. And that's unlimited access, unlike some of the other ebook libraries where you only have access to a title for a certain amount of time, or there's only 3 versions of the ebook. So if 3 other people are reading them, you can't read them. Bookshare books are available 24/7. There's no time limit. There's no limit of how many people can be reading the same title at once. So especially for the individual memberships for $50 for unlimited reading, it's a really, really great deal. But again, for students and schools, there's never a fee. Someone has asked the process to request books and what is the turnaround time. So in addition to our 1 million titles, which most likely we have it, but there might be a title that we don't have. Under the Help Center, there's the request a book link. It takes you to a page. There's a quick video tutorial that shows you how to request a book. Just select the book request form. If it's required for school, that makes it the priority for us to get the book. Fill in the title. ISBN is very helpful. There's often many different versions of the same book. I think when I put in Tale of Two Cities, it brought up like 100 different versions. We don't replace a version when we get a new version of it. So as the books, publishers will put out a new version, even of classic books such as that, we have all the versions. So by having the ISBN, if you want it to be the same as maybe a paper book you're using with your other students, the ISBN is really helpful. You fill in that, you submit it, it goes to our collection development team. And if we can get the digital file from a publisher, sometimes it's just a quick, like maybe a week turnaround time. If we can't get the digital file from the publisher. We actually purchase the book. We chop off the spine, we scan the pages. That can take a couple months because then it has to be proofread, because with scanning, sometimes it jumbles the word. You lose the images and the book structure. So that does take longer, but usually we can get it from the publisher, and then it's a pretty quick turnaround time. And we always recommend kind of at the end of the school year, if you know some of the books you might be using over the summer, that you'll be using in the next school year, that over the summer is a great time to put in those requests, because it's a slower time for us when schools aren't in session, and then they'll be ready for you at the start of the new year. So yes, again, another question about cost. Yes, it's free for the students, only the cost for the adults who are non-students. But again, if an adult is a student, whether they go back to college or they're in a vocational program, some type of adult education program, it would be free for them as well. Someone asked if annotating is possible in textbooks. Within our web reader, it is not. But in many of our reading tools, it is possible to do that. Can students sign up for an individual membership on their own if over 18? Yes, they can. They can sign up for their own. Someone's asked a question, can you talk some more about qualifying learning disabilities? There's not much info about this on the website. There's not that much information because the slide I had with the qualifications is exactly verbatim from the law. It does not specify any diagnoses. Many of our members have been diagnosed with dyslexia if they fall into the learning or reading category, but that diagnosis is not required. If the student is not reading at grade level and they've been evaluated and it's been determined that an accommodation such as text-to-speech or audiobooks would help them comprehend the content, then that is sort of the educator's clue that they would qualify for Bookshare. So that's sort of one way. So there's, for better for worse, there's not like, it's kind of the gray area. We leave it up. The educators are the professionals who work with the students, whether you've evaluated them personally or have seen their evaluations, how they're doing in school, if they're how they're accessing their grade level content. And usually the students who aren't, there's some sort of an evaluation process. There's some tools out there called PAR, P-A-R, and UPAR, that there's an online version and a paper version where puts students through some reading comprehension, different sort of tests. It's an evaluation that can be done sort of outside of an IEP process in many districts. That sometimes that evaluation comes out and says the student could benefit from an accommodation such as text-to-speech. So that's something you could look into if you're concerned the student doesn't meet the criteria, but again, we leave it up to the educators to determine if the student does have some type of reading barrier that is preventing them from accessing their grade level content. So again, there's been a couple questions about the English language learners. And no, on its own, that does not qualify unless they either have a visual impairment or a physical disability or a learning or reading disability. Someone's asked if the school already has an organizational account, can more than one teacher have an account? Oh yes, definitely. More than one teacher we can have as many sponsors on the account as they wish. They get added. Anyone who's already a sponsor can add another sponsor to the account under the My Bookshare page. There's a sponsors link, sponsor roster, just like the member roster. And I could add, if I know my colleague down the hall has students that qualify, I would just simply add them. Then they are a sponsor, and then they add their own students who qualify. So the more sponsors, it's easier for all the educators. So it's not falling on one educator to have to find and assign all the books. So probably the easiest way, because once the account is set up, it's much easier to get added as a sponsor than to create a new account. I mean, it's not hard to create an account, but you have to send in the initial paperwork to get the account approved. But if there's an account already that's approved and in use, you can request to be added to that. Someone asked, can classroom teachers be added as sponsors? Yes, it does not have to be a special education teacher. In fact, we encourage more general education teachers to be added to the accounts because they have these students in their classes and they will need to assign books. And it's much easier if they can do that instead of relying on someone else who's probably very busy and has a large caseload to do that. So it can be special education teachers, general education teachers, AT team members, VI, itinerant teachers, VI teachers, paraprofessionals can be listed, librarians. Pretty much anyone that is working in the school and would have a need to assign the book to the student can be added as a sponsor. Someone asked about reading the book and starting the text over again. With the web reader, it will just always start at the top of the page. Again, it's our free basic reader, but the different tools such as CAPTI, you can just position the cursor and have it start reading from there. So again, if you need the more functionality, I really encourage you to look at the reading tools wizard and see what other tools are available for the device, and it will be a better reading experience. If someone asked if you provide access to, if you gave someone an individual membership, would the student log in differently? Yes, when you add the individual membership, the parent specifies the email address. It could be, the parent's email address, or the student has their own, but it would then convert to that email address as opposed to the username and password that you have assigned. And again, when the teacher gives the student the individual account, there's no fee. As long as that student is a student in a K-12 post-secondary or vocational program, it will always be free. Someone's asked if the reading tools can be used outside of Bookshare. Yes, these are not, the Bookshare web reader is just, can only be used with Bookshare, but the different mobile apps and the other different devices, they work on, you can pull in EPUBs or Word documents, PDFs. You can plug in a URL to a website and it will read it. They also connect to other libraries outside of Bookshare as well. So it's those tools have access to a lot of content. Now only Bookshare members can access the Bookshare books through the different apps, and some of the other libraries that they connect with are membership only libraries, but they do allow the accessible reading experience from a variety of content sources. Someone's asked that they're taking over for a previous AT member, and can I take over her account? You don't need to take over the account. You can just be added as a sponsor to that account. And then once you're listed as a sponsor on the account, you can kind of clean it up. You can remove the people who are no longer there. If you're not sure how to get access to that account, you can call our membership team or send an email, and then they can look up the account and make that change for you. Can the school request a paid account and allow all students to use it? No, Bookshare, again, is only for people who have either the visual, the reading, learning, or physical disability. There are other ebook libraries out there that can be accessed by everybody. And we do have books in our collection that are copyright free that anyone, you don't even need to log into the site, can access. But again, those the copyright free books tend to not be the greatest quality. Often they're kind of some older books, but like anyone could read Tale of Two Cities because it's certain editions of it are not copyright that we have on our site. So if there is, you could always search for the copyright-free books under that advanced search link, but no, it's not a matter of having a paid account or not. Someone's asking if students come to us at the high school level and they already have an account, is there a way to move them to a different school? They would have to be added to their new school account and have their individual membership attached to that. There's no way student has to be kind of re-added at their new school. Can you retrieve passwords at the student and you forget it? You can't retrieve them, but you can reset it. You go to your members roster, edit the student information. See, I can't see the password, but I can select reset, and then you just type in the new password. So, we all have a lot of different passwords and sometimes we forget them. And if the student has an individual membership, the parent will set up the password, but the parent, the default in our system is to allow the teacher to still be able to reset the password, even if they have the individual memberships. There's been some questions about if PDF format is available. No, we do not provide materials in PDF format. There's a lot of accessibility issues kind of inherently with PDFs. If someone definitely needs a PDF, sometimes you can download the book in the Word format, and there's tools to convert it to a PDF. So that is one way, but and some of the reading tools, the other different reading tools on the different devices do ingest, you can import a PDF into that. So if you have something that just exists as a PDF, you would need to use one of those reading tools, but the Bookshare books themselves cannot be downloaded directly into a PDF. Someone asked for so webinar is recorded and you will you receive an email with a link to it within a day or so, and it will be posted on our website as well. Someone asked how do you get to the page with about the individual membership information? So on your member roster, just here, under this More Actions tab, add individual membership is one of the choices. So you do need to select which student. You can do them all. One, the More Actions, add individual membership. And option 1 is where you are requesting the new individual membership. And option 2 is if you're connecting a student's existing individual membership to the organization. But in both cases, you do that through the member roster, selecting this More Actions link. I guess the sound did not come through with the book, so I'm going to go back and try to redo that. Thought I had enabled the share sound, but go back to the book. Again, I just hit that Read Now button.
Congratulations. As the last of the spectators left the court, the Manettes, Jarvis, and Mr. Stryver gathered around to congratulate Charles. Stryver was very pleased with himself and was happily blowing his own trumpet.
So again, you hit the speaker icon to stop and start. And as someone mentioned, it will go back to the top of whichever section you were on. But in our updated web reader, the new and improved version that will be coming out in January, you will have the option to start, select certain place where you want it to read. There are some extensions that can be added on to give WebReader more features. They're not our tools. There's one called Snap and Read, and there's one called Read and Write for Google that two other companies make. They're great tools. They are Google Chrome extensions that you add to your Chrome browser that have a toolbar that overlays above it. And I think I have just a trial. No, it's not going to work. One point I had, oh, there it is. So this is just, it's not the real version of it, but it provides this toolbar, and you can do the hover speech.
The name Usborne in the www.
So I move my cursor to move. So if you do then have the option of starting
The name Usborne in the device.
where you want it to start. It also has different voices. It has some better quality voices. So again, there's a free version, which see all these things that are grayed out, you don't have access to, but many times districts, especially maybe through the AT department, they have licenses that they've purchased to these tools, and they make them available for use throughout the district. So that is one way to add some functionality to our basic web reader. And then the other tool is called Snap and Read. And they're both great tools, especially if you only have access to a Chromebook or a computer.
UE first published in America in 2003. The name Usborne in the devices registered, copyright are trademarks of Usborne Publishing Limited.
Sorry to get out of that. I'm happy to take some more questions. If there's any other questions, maybe I can show the browse page. Maybe this time the page will load. There we go. So again, you can see these are all the Fontes and Pinnell grade 3 collections. We've categorized them and put them in one easy to find place. If you're using that system, again, the browse page is great for just finding ideas about other books to read. We constantly update and create new, different categories based maybe on current events, around holidays. We'll have a holiday theme reading list. Here's the young adult reads. So again, we have a great collection development team that works hard to update the lists and keep them interesting and relevant. New York Times, when they're updated, we add them here with the date added so you know which edition, and we don't replace the earlier one, so you always have then a running list of those books. And again, that is the browse page. And I mentioned that we do have quite a number of the copyright-free books that for students that don't meet the criteria could have access to on the advanced search page, freely available books. Just search on that. And that pulls up, we have almost 10,000 of them, all different types of books. And again, could just read it in the browser, download the file. So you don't even need to be logged in to access those, but if you're not a member, that's all you would be able to access. Just checking the chat, seems like some people put some questions in there. Can you show where textbooks are? Textbooks are it's just all, one. We do have the browse page that categorizes some of those Lexile levels and other topic areas, but the textbook you would just search by the title, the ISBN. We do have on the advanced search page, there's a category called textbooks. So that's one way that will bring up a lot of them, but not everything is tagged. That's a textbook is necessarily tagged as a textbook. So you could potentially miss something. So if the ISBN is the best way to look up a book, but if you're just looking for an example of, you want to find a textbook on a certain topic, you could select the textbooks, animals, and find it that way. But other than that, you'd have to just search. You're looking for biology textbook. some biology textbooks that have come up. And so forth. The freely available books are under the advanced search. So, see if there's any other questions. Someone's asked, how do I create a short list of just my students? I can see the whole districts and I only want to see my students. Okay, let me go back to the teacher portal. So I'm on the member list, and that is true. If there's a district level account, there could be 200 students listed here. When you add your student, going to the edit, there's a little box here, quick list. I think it is checked by default, but quick list just means that's your student. So when you come, to your member roster, you can filter it. You don't want to see all the members. You just want to see those who are on your quick list. So again, this is my demo account. So all these students I've entered, so they would show on my quick list, but it will only show you the students that you have added, that you've denoted are on your quick list. If there's a student, or you could also do it by school. When the student is added, you can put in the name of the school. You don't have to, but for schools that are, for accounts that contain students from any school, it's recommended. You can just select the school. So now it just shows me the one student from that school. There are some rare cases where there's a statewide account. So then you could filter by which specific district. So, and that information gets entered when you're adding the student. There's the fields for district and school. You can either add a new one or select from the ones that have already been entered. So that's really helpful to just see your students. Sometimes there might be a sponsor who just supports one or two students, and but you don't have to sift through all the names to find just the student that you need to support. So the quick list is how you create that abbreviated list. Well, it looks like we are at time. Thank you all for attending. You will get a copy of the presentation and the webinar. We do have what we call our office hours webinar that is coming up on this Friday, the 10th at 11 a.m. And that's just a chance. I will be on. There's no presentation. It's just a chance to ask questions, whether it's just to ask a question or requesting to see something on the site that I've done. We do that. So it's really kind of your chance to come in and just ask your questions. And we do that for an hour starting at 11 o'clock on Friday the 10th. So if you're interested in that, I encourage you to go to our webinar page and sign up for that. So again, I hope that was helpful. I will put up, there is my email address. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me with those questions or contact our great customer support team. Thank you and have a great rest of your day and rest of the week.